I'm Evan Moody.
I'm Andy Gruthius.
And you're listening to Nothing Worthwhile
with Moody and Groo.
Bye.
Nothing Worthwhile, the recognized symbol of excellence in crappy podcasting.
We have this tape of Bruce Springsteen's message. His answering machine.
Yeah.
And someone gave it to me and told me it's the real thing. And I figured Clarence could at least tell us if it's really him. Could you tell us if it's him?
It's real.
It is real?
That's the real one?
How'd you get that?
I don't know how I got that. Somebody gave it to me.
That's the real one.
That's real.
That is really his answering machine? Hey, can we play that?
It blew my mind.
Yeah, play that. Check this out. This is Bruce Springsteen's
answering machine message.
You gotta play the horn now, Clarence.
Yeah, he's supposed to.
There it is.
Hey.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
I liked it. Hi, boss.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
That's great.
Hey, this is some show. My God.
Hey, man.
When
I believe we have that
Clarence
stuff.
was dying, do I have it right that you went to see him and that he actually passed away? You were sitting and strumming the guitar to him?
Yes.
That is just so... You went to see him, you had your guitar, and you felt... I assume he was not conscious at that point, but you felt internally like, hey, maybe Clarence can hear me.
Well, I had a feeling he could hear me because he could squeeze your hand. When I first went to see him, there was some response to your voice and to you being in the room. It felt like so. I just took a hunch and said, well, I knew that he was going to die, and so I just brought the guitar in and just played. I strummed a song called "Land of Hope and Dreams." Yeah, "Land of Hope and Dreams." And
why did you choose that?
It's about passing over to the other side. It's about life and death. And
so you're sitting there with Clarence,
yeah,
and you're losing a dear friend, a guy who really believed in you and you believed in him.
Yeah,
and you started to strum.
Yeah,
and you were alone in the room with him, or are the people around?
I was. I'm trying to think. He had some of his relatives. His brother was there. I think Jake, his nephew was there. And there were a few other people, but it was just a very tiny little space, and so it was just grab your ticket and your suitcase. Thunder's rolling down this track. You don't know where you're going now, but you know you won't be back. Well, darling, if you're weary, lay your head upon my chest. We'll take what we can carry, and we'll leave the rest. Big wheels roll through fields where sunlight streams. Meet me in a land of hope and dreams. Yeah, well, I will provide for you, and I'll stand by your side, 'cause you'll need a good companion now for this part of the ride. Yeah, leave behind your sorrows, let this day be the last. Well, tomorrow there'll be sunshine, and all this darkness pass. Well, big wheels roll through fields where sunlight streams. in a land of hope and dreams. There's a whole thing that goes, this train carries saints and sinners. This train, I don't remember it now, carries losers and winners. You know, it's a
beautiful song.
It's a hymn. You know, it's a hymn. And
did you have any idea you'd sing that to him, or did it just
No.
sort of happen spontaneously?
Yeah, I don't know how. It was just sort of. It was a song we were playing at the end of the night, and it was one of the last songs that Clarence and I worked on a sax solo together on, and you know, so it was. It's probably one of my best songs of the past 20 or 30 years, you know.
We are not live from New York. We are, we're once again back on Microsoft Teams. The big live from New York show came and gone in a haze of fireball, locks, depression, and sushi,
pizza, and more pizza.
Berserker and Haas Funk and Terry Funk and Dory Funk,
the Blue Meanie and Bob Backlund and
we did make it down to New York. We did not record a show live from New York, but we are still on topic. We know that Howard Stern returned back to the studio as he went one-on-one with the boss Bruce Springsteen, over 2 hours long. What do we learn about Howard? What do we learn about Bruce? Moody and Groo will give you the lowdown on the Stern-Springsteen Sirius sit-down. Mel Gibson and Kanye West's least favorite podcast. Let's bring him in. One half
funny.
of the World Tag Team Champions, currently residing in Coconut Creek, Florida. Andrew Gruthius. Groo, how the hell are you, my friend?
Good afternoon to you and the Nothing Worthwhile universe. It's great to see you. It was great to see you.
It was great. We did have a good time.
We did, and we had such a good time that we didn't even I didn't even take the podcast stuff out of my bag. I mean, it never happened. It was just, you know, we go to New York and we're just we're constantly on the move, which is a good thing. You know, always doing stuff. You know, what did we do? We had a running commentary of Rocky V. That was very constructive.
We did. Well, let's see. We picked you up from the airport. We went out
right into
to
the city
for a few drinks and some very nice hamburgers, tasty late night burgers and fries. The next day, that was Friday.
No, that was Thursday. That was Thursday,
right? But Friday, we, I did the workout thing with Craig, and then we kind of hung around the house most of the day, and we watched Rocky V. We got into some Howard Stern debates with Craig. Did some good food, some sushi. We made swag bags for the big charity event.
Yeah.
Saturday was the big event.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Had a great time.
It was awesome.
And Sunday back on the plane.
Yeah, the weekend kind of gets away from us. We're having so much fun. But, we will, best laid plans. We'll make it up. We'll make it up to our fans who were chomping at the bit for our big Stern Springsteen summit, if you will.
Yes.
I actually haven't heard any. I haven't looked, but I haven't heard any of the Howard Stern or Springsteen podcasts coverage of this. So I really don't know what fans on both sides, think about it at all. I haven't heard anything, so I'm interested. Yeah, I'm interested to hear what you think. I haven't even asked you. We've talked about specific things, but I haven't even asked you what you thought of the thing as a whole.
Well, we'll certainly get to it. But before we get to it, first week back, back Florida school, everything, Thanksgiving, everything going well.
Yeah, Thanksgiving was great. We were off the entire week.
I know, so were we.
So look, it's pointless, but at the same time, it's like we came back. I came back from New York, and like, oh yeah, I don't have to go to work tomorrow. So that there's that. But it goes so fast because day after tomorrow we're back in for a straight 4 weeks before.
Oof.
Yeah, we haven't had 2 weeks in a row with a full week of school for with all the hurricane stuff and everything. So it's going to be strange. But yeah.
Yeah. How dare they expect 4 weeks in a row?
Yeah.
From us? What do they think they are?
20 straight days of education. And we can't have that. Not in the indoctrinating state of Florida. But no, everything. Thanksgiving was great. Was with my mom and dad. My brothers are out of town. It was just a nice, relaxing week. So what day is today? you lose track of time. It's Saturday. So what about yours? You have a good time?
Yeah, we went to Marie's brothers, and we had the football, and just a complete.
Wait, is that Marie of New U Life Center?
That is Marie of New U Life Center.
Ooh,
yes,
hanging with the celebs. I'm impressed.
Oh yes, absolutely. It was VIP all the way. We had Thanksgiving at our brothers, and it was a big food schmaz, and watched football, and it was a lot of fun. And tonight we'll connect with my side of the family, with my brother and my dad. We're going to go to Bupa de Beppo for some
nice Italian food. Like that family style. I love those places.
That's a Mitch Moody favorite. He likes to go there, and
that's a good one.
That's it. Otherwise, tomorrow a little football, and we're going to take it easy because I have to ease my way back into the work week. Yeah, I don't want to do too much tomorrow except lay on my ass and watch football. And,
we got Survivor Series tonight.
Oh yes, that's tonight. Actually,
that is tonight.
I will watch that. I will watch that on delay. So please text me, but don't text me live results.
I keep
Just
forgetting.
Give me a feel for. No. I'm gonna watch it later because I got the Thanksgiving.
All right. So you know what?
Dinner.
Then that's the cool thing about this whole thing. I can wait also. So I'll wait a couple hours and then I'll start it. Because it's fun. It's fun when we do that.
All right.
I like that.
Well, it could be a little bit later on your side. But
who gives a shit? I don't got to work tomorrow.
I already told Marie. I was like, oh my God. She's like, oh God. Like I'm like, this is great. Like my dad's taking us to dinner, and then I get like Survivor Series. What a great night! I don't gotta crack out my cash or my credit card. This is what a blessing.
Vacations are always cheap.
Yeah, you brought it up. What did you just say? The Jews are always cheap?
No. What are you kidding? I said vacations can be very cheap if you don't do anything.
This is true. Yeah,
I just go out with my folks every night or whatever. That's I get free dinners that way. Of course, I love to see my parents, but
I sit in my house just like this.
Yeah,
I'm afraid to.
But it's not lost on me how much money I'm able to save by not having to be completely responsible for myself.
We are lucky. We had in New York a very generous Craig and friends.
Oh God, what a weekend!
Took very good care of us, and we have good parents that will take us out for a dinner from time to time. That's always a wonderful, fun thing as well. You did mention Survivor Series. I don't want to go through it, the card top to the bottom, but Andrew, just give us some thoughts. What'd you think of the build-up for the show? Are you excited for the show? And perhaps where is it going to lead as we look in the far future? WrestleMania is somewhere out there. We could see the finish line. Just give me some general thoughts leading up to Survivor Series War Games.
Okay, well, my thoughts are going to be very general because I honestly have no idea where they're going, which is a good thing. Like, to me, this Survivor Series is kind of like going back to the faction, the teams matches. Survivor Series over the last, I would say, almost 20 years at this point, has been just another pay-per-view sort of WrestleMania light, in a way. They got away from the traditional Survivor Series matches, so now we have that. The drawback with those is that the stakes aren't usually as high. Back in the day, it used to be a novelty to see, 5 of the good guys taking on 5 of the bad guys. They didn't need
but there were no stakes even
right
then.
Right, but you didn't need stakes back then the way you need them now. Because I was watching the first Survivor Series either yesterday or today or this morning maybe, and just looking at how it's so manufactured, but the crowd eats it up, and so did we, because it was just a different kind of business at the time.
Well, yeah, that's the key point, Andrew. It was a way different time back then.
Right. So, but that being said, I am looking forward to seeing what they manufacture out of this. I'm really looking forward to seeing, because we go right from this into, I think, Royal Rumble, or is there a couple things? Is there one or two things?
I think there might be one pay-per-view in between. Royal Rumble is when, Groo? When
I think it's in either January or February. It's after the new year.
Yeah, I think they got rid of that day one. I think they got rid of day one.
Oh, I like that.
I think. I could be wrong. Here's my thoughts. I watched SmackDown last night, pretty much beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
Thought it was actually a very good show.
Agreed.
I thought Raw was okay. The SmackDown, it did a good job in building up the rivalry between the two men's teams. I felt like going into it, they haven't, again, the women's kind of thrown together, the men's a little bit less. So I thought SmackDown did a good job of establishing, especially on the men's side, the rivalry. I think the War Games piece, it will be unique. We haven't had it on the main roster. So I'm looking forward to the show. Again, I agree with Andy. There's not really a lot of stakes there, except you may see the first beginnings of the cracks in the bloodline. They've been sort of, again, picking up with the Sami Zayn, Jey Uso feud a little bit, and then, you've got the Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn friendship / rivalry. Some interesting side pieces. So, again, I think they did a good job the last week building it up. I'm definitely going to watch it. I'll be into it because I'm into mostly everything the WWE, puts out there. But, again, am I fanatical about it? No. But I thought they did the last week. They did a good job to tighten it up a little bit, the storylines, and you can kind of see with the women, Becky Lynch coming back, the fifth member.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
But that was, I think that's great. But I think that cinches it for that team. I think the face team. I'm not going to give you all my picks, but certainly I think it's the face team on the women's side's got it wrapped up now with Becky Lynch in the fold.
Well, I'm hoping they really start to, even though it seems a little early, to come away from this show with some WrestleMania seeds planted. Because the Royal Rumble really only takes care of one of those things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. The Royal Rumble has just got a built-in, indestructible gimmick that just never gets old, in my opinion.
I agree.
I do agree. I do think it's good for the WWE to build up Survivor Series. I was reading one of Mr. Tito's old columns, and he said Survivor Series early on was like the number 2 pay-per-view. Like it was really behind WrestleMania. And as Andy said, they've sort of gotten away from that. It's sort of lost interest. So I think Triple H and the creative team has done a good job to change it up, and I do think the WWE Universe will be interested and a little bit more vested in this Survivor Series. And I agree with Andy. Where it goes, I'm not too sure either, but we'll see later tonight.
Yeah, and one more thing. You know what? With the way they present their product now, with the streaming and the Peacock, and it's not based on pay-per-view buys anymore, really, or is it? I don't think that's
so
a thing.
No.
I think they should move it back to Thanksgiving night. Remember, it started out that way, a Thanksgiving night tradition. People aren't watching pro football, the way they used to. No, but we're watching the Giants-Dallas game at the house. I'm watching it, but nobody gives a shit. We have 100 people there, and nobody's paying any attention.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think the WWE has tried to. I think that's a scheduling thing in which because the schedule is perceived as so brutal, and it's combat sports entertainment. I think that the WWE has been more benevolent in their scheduling and trying to give these folks time off on Thanksgiving, time to spend with Christmas. But I agree, it would have been fun to have on a big holiday. Certainly a great way to showcase the product. But
well, that's the way it used to be. That's the way it started. It was like a Thanksgiving night tradition, and then I guess buys were going down, so they moved it. But now that's not a thing anymore. Interesting. Well, we'll see. A lot of questions will be answered this evening, along with a lot of new questions.
Yes, and I think good entertainment does that, Andrew.
Yes.
All right, let's get to it. We have a very Howard and Bruce-centric week that was. So, Groo, let's get to it. Some items on Bruce and Howard. It's nothing worthwhile. The week that was.
New You Life Center presents Nothing Worthwhile, the week that was.
Bam! Nothing Worthwhile, the week that was, is brought to you by New You Life Center. Groo, no goal is too big, no journey is too far. Check out all their hormone balancing programs for men and women at www.newyoulifecenters.com or give them a call at 602-274-0068. Tell them that Moody and Groo sent you and receive a big 15% off your first service. Thank you to New You Life Center. These are a little bit older notes from a week or two ago, but Groo, ironically enough, it was announced, I think 2 Mondays ago, that the video of Bruce Springsteen's October 31st interview on the Howard Stern Show will air on HBO on November 27th, which is tomorrow, the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. Howard announced on his show on that Monday, he said it would air after The White Lotus. I've never seen that show. That's a TV show on HBO, which would mean 10 p.m. Presumably, there will be repeats and streaming availability on HBO Max as well. Stern said he had the idea to make the video currently viewable only by SiriusXM subscribers more widely available, and Springsteen readily agreed. Quoting Howard, I just said to Bruce on the phone, man, I just think this was the greatest. I want more people to see it. And he said, me too, Howard. And that was it. So I think it was really a special moment. I thought Bruce was generous, loose as a goose. Loose as a goose. I don't know who says loose, what adult male says loose as a goose anymore. All right. Anyway, the guy's singing, he's talking. Groo, the big interview will be on HBO and HBO Max. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, on one area, it's really cool. As a Springsteen fan, I love that this thing, that he's so relevant this late in his career. He's 73 years old, and they're just making such a huge deal out of this whole thing. And I guess part of me really likes that. So I do like the fact that I love the fact that my parents are gonna see it, because they were watching MSNBC.
Let me just tell you that much. That's the kiss of death to me.
Yeah, it's a complete kiss of death, but not for Howard Stern. I like them to hear and see more of Bruce Springsteen. I think they would appreciate. Okay. I think they would appreciate it more, and it's something that that's been such a huge part of my life. I'd like them to know a little bit more about it. So I like it on that front. Do I need to watch it? Absolutely not. I heard the whole interview. It's a radio show, not a not a video thing. I like the clips we got, but as far as do I really need to sit down and watch that interview from beginning to end, the answer is not particularly. So it's not. But I don't think it's for me. I don't think it's for us. I think it's for people who haven't heard it and seen it. So I'm good with it. Definitely a corporate move on Howard and Bruce's part, but part of the nature of every part of the business at this point, streaming has kind of like infected every single part of the entertainment business, regardless of what medium it is. So I understand why they're doing it, but like I said, it's not like I'd forgotten that it was coming out tomorrow. It's not a huge deal for me.
Yeah, you said a lot. The corporate thing I'm going to touch upon, but it was funny because when you're talking, I'm seeing like my mom and your mom going like, "This is what Evan and Andy spent literally thousands of dollars on over the past 35 years."
Well, I think my mom has come to terms with it.
Oh, my mom has too. I'm just joking. With the concerts in the gym, that's what my mom used to yell at me for. I think, Andy, you hit upon something, the corporate move, because I see this, and I'm cynical. I told you guys I'm biased. You know, I can't talk about Howard. I could talk about Bruce. I can't talk about how I'm a jaded guy, and I think this is Howard's option to try to get himself on streaming post radio career, or I believe he wants so badly to do the Letterman Netflix streaming thing. I just believe that that's his angle right there. I believe that's what he tried to do with his birthday show, and from what I've heard, they just didn't bite. And
wait,
again,
back up a second. There's something I'm not aware of. What about the birthday thing?
The birthday show that he did about 5 years ago, I think it was his 60th birthday or whatever it was, 65th birthday. The rumor was, because it was a big television presentation, and Howard
I remember that.
Gave it for free, so to speak, to SiriusXM on the SiriusXM platform. But from what I had read and listened to some insider podcasts, that was Howard's attempt at presenting to these streaming services, hey, I'm still relevant, I could book serious guests, I could book big-time entertainment, and that's what I read about it, and apparently it wasn't picked up. So that was Howard's attempt to,
So his birthday show was like a pilot, in a way?
In a sense, I'm saying that's what I've heard and read. I'm not saying, I'm only surmising, and I believe it's the same thing here. Howard's a notorious spendthrift, and so, I don't buy it that all of a sudden he had a moment of equanimity and said, you know what, I want to bring this great interview of this great artist to the masses. I think there's always an angle there.
Yeah.
And you sort of hinted at it with the corporate deal. So I'm not going to go full throttle conspiracy theory, but I believe that that's Howard's angle. Wants to get his ass on a streaming service, wants to get paid to do that, once a month or whatever, the interview, the sit down. I think that that's what ultimately he wants to do. And so I think this is an opportunity to, get his stuff on a major streaming service like HBO Max and a major artist like Bruce Springsteen, and we'll see what comes of it.
Well, you mentioned something interesting, because I'm going to propose a hypothetical for you. Let's say you have a choice right now. All right? The Howard Stern Show in its current form, 3 days a week, in its current form, or once a month, a 2-hour Howard Stern interview. Just that. That is video, that is, kind of reminiscent of his old interview show, but much more in depth and much more, the 2022 Howard, but still asking Howard, not Good Morning America type questions. I would think that you would sort of welcome that, because at least that's Howard doing something else, not pretending to be the radio beacon that he used to be. Now he'd be going into some other realm, and who knows? At least it would be something semi new, or at least just visually And I don't know. I would think that excuse me.
That's a little.
I would think.
A little bit of tryptophan gas from the turkey.
I would think that you, as somebody who's so critical of the current product, myself included, I'm right there with you. I would almost prefer that than to kind of what we're getting on a daily basis. What do you think? Or
let me take this one, Andy, please.
Go ahead.
You were a little gassy. Take a step back for a second. Not really thrilled about either option, to be honest with you. I think something like Howard on a once-a-month interview, it's going to be guest-driven. It would really, to me, depend on the guests. As I'm hearing you formulate your question, I'm thinking, well, it's really guest-driven. And knowing Howard, it's going to be, and again, this is me being a little biased, it's going to be the same woke-driven guest that, do I want to see Howard, with Amy Schumer for 2? No. So my answer would be I'd rather at least get him on the radio where once in a while there's something funny and I can have 101. Does that make sense? I don't think Howard's going to get guests that really jazz me up. And really, Howard's guests that I want to hear are really the guys and girls that have been with him the longest. The Spade. I still enjoy those. The Spade, the Rob Schneiders, the Arnolds, even Alec Baldwin, who I don't like personally. I find him to be an interesting interview. I just feel like, I don't want to see Hillary Clinton, Amy Schumer, blah, 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 blah. It's not to focus on those two per se. So I probably would rather stick to the radio where I know what I'm going to get, and it'll be an occasional semi-interesting segment, and then I got 101 to once in a while listen to if I want to get my fix of older segments, but basically 101 has turned out to be 2018 Bachelor Nation talk. Whoa, boy, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, I'm a bitter guy, so I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think because I find myself only listening, what do they name it? What do they say it? Ex post something or other? After the fact. Well, yeah, I only listen after, I hardly listen live anymore, mostly because I'm usually at work by the time the show starts. But I'll listen if I'm familiar, if there's something that I hear about that interested me. Oh, Howard had this guy on and he said this, or Howard had a good rant on this. But if I don't hear anything about it, it's one of the selections on the Sirius in the car. It's one, you got E Street Radio, Howard 1, Howard 2. So I always pass by. I give them a chance every day.
Me too.
I always pass by, and very seldom do I stay for very long when I hit Howard 100. So I think I would welcome this kind of thing. And yes, it'll finally be guest driven, but it will be unapologetically guest driven. Unlike the radio show. The radio show is guest driven without admitting that they're guest driven. You know what I mean?
Well, they've acknowledged, isn't he now the quote unquote king of all interviewers? Let me ask you a question. Have you watched consistently the David Letterman stuff, and have you enjoyed it?
No,
because
I watched.
I haven't. I watched the Howard episode. It was boring.
Yes, didn't like it.
And I don't think I watched another one. I don't know. I'm not really interested.
I think I watched. I liked. I think the first one he did was the first one he did Obama. I think I watched the Obama one, and I liked
a little bit,
and I liked that one. And I liked the one with Obama, but not because of Letterman. I liked it because Obama is a good interviewer. That is a good interview. He's very polished and very good at it. So he kind of made it entertaining. But with Letterman, that format doesn't really work. Letterman is not an interviewer. He's a snarly talk show guy. That kind of thing doesn't work for him.
But he's not a snarly talk show guy anymore. He's already apologized for his sins, and that's the same thing we're going to get with Howard. You're not going to get...
But we want the sins. That's why we're fans. We want the sins.
Understood, but You're not going to get that on a Netflix streaming or an HBO. You're going to get a very polished.
But just like with Letterman, I'll give it a shot.
Right.
But I mean, there's no way it could be. As fans, there's no way it could be any more of a letdown than the current show, right?
I mean, boy, talk about low expectations.
Well, wait, all of a sudden we're hopeful that the show is going to dramatically improve.
I'm being sarcastic, Andy. I'm saying low expectations. That was going to be the name of this podcast.
Yeah,
we didn't go with Nothing Worthwhile.
What else do we have? We had Nothing Worthwhile. Did we just settle on that one the second we heard it, or were we just lazy? We just said, that sounds good.
We were talking, and I think we had done some stuff, or we had done one or two things on YouTube. We started talking about doing the podcast, and I think we were on like a Zoom call, and I said to you something to the effect of, like, I always pictured the podcast being what we talked about during all the wrestling pay-per-views. Like, we'd be watching the matches, but like we'd be discussing like Phil Collins' latest album, and we could kill 3 hours discussing that with a slice of pizza and Coke and and watching wrestling and talking about And I said to you something like it's stuff that we talk about, nothing worthwhile, just light, and then
the light bulb went off.
And I kind of went with that one. I think it's a great name. And,
when we go on hiatus and we break up the band and then we're apart for 20 years, then our reunion tour. When we come back for our reunion podcast, it'll be called Low Expectations.
Right. We'll have to apologize for all
after we have a Crosby, Stills and Nash style public spat.
Those guys. Well, it's really Crosby. They all hate him. Like
I don't. Yeah.
And by the way, I could care less with Neil Young. He's such a. Oh Lord, the guy is such a.
You know what? You know what? What's
I didn't
interesting
enjoy
about
it.
that?
I really Neil Young is on my bucket list for concert. I've seen him once or twice. I'd like to see him one more time. I don't think I will, based on his age, and he doesn't really come around here on the West Coast too much. But what a curmudgeon! That last interview, he's angry about every little. I don't know. I didn't even listen to much of it. He was screaming about.
I didn't hear it at all. Actually, did they bring up Crosby at all?
I didn't listen, to be honest with you, to the whole thing. So they didn't when he was screaming about electrical cars, and I just I
tell you, you know what? It comes with a loss of innocence, Evan, because we spend all these years looking at these things. I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking about Howard Stern and all his people. I'm thinking about Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. I'm thinking about Billy Joel and his people. I'm thinking about Star Trek. I'm thinking about these people. Just like us, they work with each other. When they yell cut, or when the work day is over, they go in their different directions. It's not like we're watching them put on a show. We're watching them work together to entertain us, and then they go. That doesn't mean they're friends. It doesn't mean they're. And we never looked at it that way. But now, since the transparency with streaming, with everything, like we see, everything is just a mirror, or not a mirror, but a magnifying glass into these people's lives. We see the cracks in the pavement, as you said before, and nobody is exempt from it, really. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I still think back in the day when these guys were major artists, top of the line, touring sensations, there has to be. I don't know if affinity is the right word. There has to be, even for Van Halen with David Lee and Eddie, there has to be a tenuous mutual respect or somewhat of an affinity.
You would think.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
I think there was, and then when you start touring and people start getting real, all those old feelings bubble up to the surface again, and it's just a question of, can we keep it together so we can earn those ridiculous paychecks, by the end of the tour?
Well, this actually opens up a lane for me, because this is something I wanted to bring up to you.
Go ahead, real quick.
And it's not a tangent. It's about Stern and Springsteen, really.
Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, as you know, we talk about how, especially with Howard Stern and Billy Joel, we talk about their relationships with the people who work for them and have worked for them. and
Okay.
what responsibility comes with, what unwritten responsibility comes with that role. We criticize Howard for not taking care of Scott's wife or not helping with that. We criticize Billy Joel for not, if his longtime buddy and drummer needs a little money for a divorce, we've criticized that. So now I bring Springsteen into the fold because as I showed you that because our friend Craig told us about it in the book. He talks about the breakup of the E Street Band, and that a lot of it had to do with the fact that these guys he started feeling like he was the banker and the daddy, and that they were coming to him for everything, for money, for help, and like he was the guy, and he just wasn't that. And I was thinking to myself, I was comparing it to Howard, to Billy Joel, and I'm thinking to myself, do these guys have an unwritten responsibility to look out for their people? I mean, these are the people. Hear me out for a second. I mean, we talk about with Howard all the time. These are the people who have a significant role to play in who Howard and Bruce and Billy and these people have become. And you decided that you were going to be the face of this franchise, the face of this organization. That was your choice, and these were the people that you wanted to be with you, and they have stuck with you all of these years. And if they hit bumps in the road and you're in a position, you are the daddy, you're the guy up there, and I can't help but feel that reading the excerpt from the Bruce book, I'm a huge Springsteen mark, but I got to say that Bruce wanted it that way. He put that situation in place where all the band members, every time he'd pick up the phone, okay, I want to tour again. All right, I'm dropping everything. I'm coming right to your side. And they don't have a right to come to you when they need something from you?
You've said, hold on, you've said
okay.
a lot. Let me respond.
So the point gets across, though.
Yes,
Okay.
Andy's point. I mean, when Andy sets up for a question, or it's like a 20-minute build-up. So that was a classic Groo tangent rant there. I felt like we're back at the old days at 2020, 2019. I'm going to say yes or no. I think it's on a situation-by-situation basis. To your point about Bruce calling everybody and going, we're going, I want to go on tour, drop everything. Well, I mean, that's the business. He is the business. So there is an understanding that when the boss man calls, you need to be flexible with your scheduling, or you're not going to be on the tour or not going to be in the band. To your point about, hey, hard times, to me, it's a case-by-case basis. Somebody falls ill with cancer, in my world, I think you have a responsibility to help someone who has been there and was on the ground floor and making your organization a success. To what level you have to help them, that's for each person to decide. Do I think, somebody gets divorced? I mean, am I responsible because, a relationship didn't work out and somebody perhaps wasn't good with their money? I'll question that one. I think it's on a case-by-case basis. I could understand. Listen, I could understand where Bruce or Billy and even Howard feel like, hey, listen, I'm not the banker, I'm not daddy. I think to me it's on a case-by-case basis. But when you're telling me somebody's wife falls ill with cancer and it's, they're accruing bills that are not of their own quote-unquote doing, are you responsible for paying the whole freight? I don't think so, but I think you have a responsibility of doing something. And again, I'm not sure I answered your question, but that's kind of how I see it. I think it's on a case-by-case basis.
Well, that's the answer. That's your answer.
I'm not saying if Andy Groo or a Max Weinberg has a divorce, I'm not saying you don't help them, but on a divorce, do I feel I have to, I don't know how I feel about that. But somebody gets sick and is in a real bad way, yeah, I would feel necessary to try to help them.
Yeah, well, Bruce didn't give any specific examples, but and this is the last we'll talk about it, but Like, take a Max Weinberg, okay? Take a Max Weinberg who arguably, maybe Steven Van Zandt, but arguably sans E Street Band could have been the most successful. He became Conan O'Brien's band leader. Then he went to the Tonight Show. But every single time Bruce had a creative whatever, that Tonight Show drum kit was taken by somebody else because Max would always come back, even if it was going to cost him that job, because he was so. Now I don't know what pays more.
You don't think Max Weinberg worked it into his contract that he had?
I'm sure he did, but that's a big ask though. You're coming on to you've been a sideman for a rock and roll star for all these years.
Okay, but how did he get that Conan O'Brien gig? He got it because he was the face of the drums for the E Street Band.
Do you think he had that much bargaining power at the time with the brand new show with probably no budget? Taking a chance on some redhead from Harvard. I don't know. I feel like
that narrative is a little angled right there. Sure, was Conan O'Brien new? Another kid from Harvard? Oh my goodness! I mean, he was a Harvard guy, and he was a well-known comedy writer. He was not a performer. Yeah, there was an underdog status with it, but I mean, they must have ponied up enough to satisfy Max Weinberg. To your point about Max or these people having to drop everything, that's the gig. I see that. I have more of a problem with Billy Joel allegedly putting the band on salary on the River of Dreams tour, moving them away from individual whatever deals, and then they supposedly got bonuses based on record sales and stuff like that. I mean, that to me, I have more of a problem.
Well, that's what Bruce did with the E Street Band. Bruce, after Born in the USA, when he
after this, can we move on?
This is part of the Springsteen narrative here. So, because it's something that he and Howard have in common. They both stuck it. One more thing.
I put Howard on a way different level.
Really?
A way different level. First of all, Bruce will acknowledge former bandmates. Bruce has former bandmates come on and
good point.
And
he throws them bones.
Time.
Yeah.
Howard all of a sudden now has this, no comment. If a caller, which I think they're all gigged, but if a legitimate caller comes in and says Artie Lang, it's they hang up on him. It's edited out. I don't. Howard just wants to go persona non grata and not mention any of these people. I think a good boss, you have to, if you're getting paid, you have to make sure that your people are enjoying those those windfalls. And that's not to say being on a salary under Bruce or Billy Joel, I'm sure you're making a wonderful salary. However, I think, you've got to give a share, you got to give a nod to those people that played and help you get there, and you should give them a little cut of sales and a little cut of this, a little cut of that. A little bit goes a long way and keeps people happy. That's just my opinion. I've seen it on a smaller scale. But I understand people getting frustrated when people come to them and they're not the banker and they're not daddy. So I won't. Again, I'm not going to. I understand where those people are coming from. I think it's a fine line, and I think it's a case by case basis.
Yeah, I'm a little more liberal with that than you are. I think.
Well, we know that, Andy. Well, you're more liberal on everything. So let's go. Oh!
But I do think that guys in that position have this unwritten responsibility to be there for their people when when they need them. But again, I don't know everything about every situation.
I am a member of your band. I don't live my life in a responsible manner. I get divorced and I got to come to you and you're going to be like, oh, here's I mean, come on, Andy. That's not. I don't know. I just feel like that's not really.
I'm not going
to cry for Liberty DeVito, who's probably on his third marriage. And he's emailing Billy because, now he had a responsibility for all those amazing tours to save and put a little nest egg in for those hard times.
Yeah, but in those cases, with the same, those guys grew up together, man. I mean, you say if it was you, if you were in my band, and we have the history that you and I have, of course. If I was in that position, and you needed, and I needed to buy you a house, I would do it in a second. I wouldn't even have to think about it because I would know you. So I would know. So if Liberty DeVito is in his 50s, late 50s, and still fucking up with his money, Billy has a choice to make: either get this guy out of my life, or I deal with him. I deal with him as he's always been. All right, and I feel like if your resources are that vast, and you have put together this thing where these people have always been there, you know. Yes, you are daddy. You are the banker.
Where do you draw the line on that, though?
I think the line is drawn on a case by case basis, without a doubt. That I will say. But you don't just, in my opinion, you don't just make a blanket thing like, here it is, guys. All right, you get your salary, you get your check, then you play the gig, you go home. Like that's not what I would want it to be. But
wow, we just took a right turn on Thunder Road and went.
Well, both Howard and Bruce are, in my opinion, guilty of the same thing.
Yeah, I see. I think Howard's a little bit more. But let's move on. Let me be clear. One thing to all of our listeners: if Andy Guthius did call me, I've always said he's the one guy. There's a few people, but I'd hop on a plane for him in a heartbeat. And if he called me and said, "You got to come," I'm in. So let me just be clear on that one.
I am your liberty.
Yes. You're only on salary though, with shares. Groo, I'm not. Let me see. I'm going to try to synthesize. But on Tuesday, I did read a review of Bruce Springsteen's "Only the Strong," or actually, as I wrote in my notes, "Only the String Survive." Pitchfork.com did say that Bruce has made a covers album, which he made in early lockdown during off hours at his home studio, where he recreated a selection of his favorite, largely obscure soul songs. Before you rush to judgment about another classic rocker taking the Rod Stewart route, it's important to remember that covers have always meant something different for Springsteen. When he was turning a Jimmy Cliff reggae single into an arena-ready burst of tension and release, and boy, he sure did, or digging through centuries of American folk music to craft his most playful and vibrant record of the 21st century. That's, of course, Pitchfork.com talking. He has a way of telling us about his favorite songs, but showing us how those songs make him feel. From the opening snare thwack of the title track, however, it's clear that The Only Strong Survive is a less transformative endeavor. The only surprising thing about Only Strong Survive is the song selection itself, which ranges from classics like Jimmy and David Ruffin's Turn Back the Hands of Time to relatively modern fare like Dobie Gray's 2000 song Soul Days, and later gems from groups like the Commodores, Andrew and I have talked about, 1985's Night Shift, and the Four Tops, 1981's When She Was My Girl. For even those who have a casual familiarity with Bruce Springsteen's music, it will be obvious what draws him to this material. The arrangements share his penchant for grand catharsis and minor to major uplift, blues in the verse and gospel in the chorus. In the place of his more characteristic touch is a confident, faithful, and occasionally synthetic-sounding accompaniment, joined by Sam Moore of Sam and Dave as a guest vocalist. Only the Strong Survive, as Springsteen tells us, is the focus of his voice. You could hear what's got him so hyped. From his gravelly whisper to his full-throated croon, a giddy roar to an anguish howl, the material allows him to explore the range of his late career delivery. We haven't seen this vibrant stuff since 1992. Andrew talked about Human Touch, another largely upbeat collection with a familiar set of influences. Springsteen has never sounded quite so lighthearted, so unburdened on record. It's easy to think of a few ways he could have made this music feel more essential to his body of work, say enlisting his E Street bandmates to help him flesh some songs out, but at this stage of his career, he seems more driven by the act of creating itself, lighting a spark and watching as it grows, knowing someone, somewhere, could find a little hope in its light. After all, he reminds us that's what these songs provided for him. Andrew, a very positive review on Pitchfork.com for The Boss. Any final thoughts on Only the Strong Survive?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good record. I just don't need it. You know what I mean? Like it's good stuff. I mean, it's good stuff. I'm enjoying watching it. Would I? If he that's a I'm getting tongue tied. It's a good point what you made, or whoever wrote that. You know, what if you're going to experiment like that? Put the E Street Band treatment on it. Don't just make it into like a karaoke record. But to be fair, there is some E Street flavor in there with like the bells and stuff. Yeah. But you know, so I question that. But again, it's nice stuff. But nothing that I was in need of or would ever go back to. I wouldn't care to hear these tunes in concert by Springsteen, because they're not Bruce Springsteen songs. Now, if he took one and made it his own, like you mentioned, "Trapped" by Jimmy Cliff, people don't even think of that as a Jimmy Cliff song. They think of it as a Springsteen song. So same with like "War" by Edwin whatever.
I love that version.
Yeah, I mean, like he makes them their own. He's not doing that here, so it's really not necessary. If this is him just having fun, well, fine, go for it. Look, the reason Rod Stewart did 5 of those things, and I actually sat. I think I've told the story on this platform. I actually sat in for the recording of one of them. Those songbook albums. I'm not saying they're good, but they sold millions. That's why he did, I think, 4 or 5 of them. He was playing those in concert, and people were eating them up. Not the Rod Stewart that I want to see, but you can't say it's not good. You know, it's good. And
why not? It's a matter of opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's like I can say that Eminem is great, but I don't like him. I don't like that kind of stuff. It doesn't appeal to me, but I know he's great at what he does. You know, that's kind of what I mean by that. He's great, but I don't get it. I don't like standards type music. I never did. So hearing Rod Stewart sing Frank Sinatra, neither are stations on a Sirius XM that I would stop by. Those are my dad's stations. You know, it's just not stuff that appealed to me, and neither is this really. You know, neither is this kind of stuff. I don't listen to Marvin Gaye all the time. I don't. You know, I listen. I need something more driving and more, you know, more tension. And you said that word tension with the Jimmy Cliff song. Like that was a great description, and that's a great way to look at it. What's the difference between a Trapped and the songs on Only the Strong Survive? And I think I just covered that. So, good album. We'll forget it as soon as the next one comes.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Andrew. I do think this is kind of the Rod Stewartization of the Boss, and I think it's a little bit of homogenization. I don't know, the videos. You know, with the tan and the shaved arms and the hair, and I don't know. It's just it's nothing that really appeals to me. The songs are fine. I mean, it's as I growing up in New York, it's AM pop. It's AM. It's AM rock. It's there's not a lot of tension there, not a lot of edge there. And then my only other thing is, and again, my opinion, maybe again I'm a little jaded. Do I need another white rock artist to do an album of soul covers? You had mentioned something about it different than Phil Collins. Now, to me, it's Rod Stewart. It's Phil Collins. It's essentially the same thing. And I think, for Rod, I think it was a way to, it was almost a conscious effort to take his music in that route, which I think he was able, he sort of did that oldies touring, which he really cashed in on, for quite a long time before he kind of went back to the more focused rock shows. Again, some of it I do enjoy. I agree with Andrew. I listened to it a couple of times. I'm a Bruce fan. I'll forget about it.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah. I mean, and he's had other ones that are like that.
Lolly Lolly, Lolly Lolly Goo Goo. There you go.
Marvin, he was a friend of mine. Come on.
Yeah, it's funny because I was sitting like on the couch with Marie and I had like my phone, I had like Apple Music, and I was kind of like goofing on Bruce, and I was like, he covered Night Shift, and Marie's like, he covered Night Shift? Oh my God. And I start playing it, and she goes, wait a second, that's really good. I love it. And I'm like, really? She's like, oh my God, I really love it. Leave it. So, and Marie's not, she's a very casual Bruce fan, so she really enjoyed it. So what the hell do I?
Yeah, well, we expect more.
Yeah.
Now, if he did instead of the Night Shift, he did like Brick House. That's in his quote unquote wheelhouse. You know what I mean? That I think he would have fun with that one. You know what I mean? But he chose songs which, like, I'd want to see a rock artist do rock covers. I'd love to see Bruce Springsteen cover I don't know, Layla. Something like a Fogerty song, stuff that he would do in concert. I'd be interested in hearing what that would sound, on a record. But this is nice but forgettable, like we said.
Alrighty. Groo, during a recent appearance on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, Bruce did his best to slam the door on the dispute over his iconic song, Thunder Road, and learned something new about his own music in the process. Bruce appeared on the November 14th The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon to clarify an old Twitter debate about a line in his classic 1975 song, Thunder Road. Some people believe the lyric in question is, a screen door slams, Mary's dress sways, while others believe a screen door slams, Mary's dress waves. Bruce stated, I was insane about every single detail that had anything to do with my music, my album cover, my lyrics. I went over everything with a fine-tooth comb so everything would be perfect and completely accurate. And by the way, I don't disagree with that. That's the kind of dedication and focus you need to be on top.
Yeah.
The lyrics to Thunder Road are in this album, the correct lyrics. Bruce then opened the album to look at the lyrics to note his own error. The screen door slams. I've been singing sways for almost 50 years. The screen door slams, Mary dress waves, he said, reading from the album. This is wrong. Yucks ensue, he said while touching the album, and starts to laugh. I'm more confused about it than before, Fallon said. This is wrong. I'm telling you, this is wrong, Springsteen joked. How did this happen? Jimmy Fallon also mentioned Alfonso Ribeiro said his signature Carlton dance from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was inspired by Bruce and Courtney Cox. Dancing in the famous Dancing in the Dark video. He showed a split screen with Springsteen dancing in the video alongside Ribeiro dancing from an episode of The Fresh Prince. Quoting Bruce, my dancing is pretty embarrassing and my kids kill me on that. Dad, you look ridiculous, Springsteen said. But it definitely does look like that I had some influence on the Carlton dance. Springsteen will tour next year, as will Taylor Swift, and there's some chatter that they may appear at each other's shows. So is there any truth to it, Fallon asked. Well, I will be because my daughter is going to make sure, Springsteen said, drawing laughter. I will be at the Taylor Swift show, so I know that, and she's welcome on E Street anytime. Let me take a breath here. Groo, any thoughts on the boss appearing on Fallon for an extended period, Thunder Road, and this sort of strange dalliance with Taylor Swift?
Well, I think the Taylor Swift stuff is like it's exactly what it.
Work with
I'm saying it. It's exactly what it sounds like. They're probably the two biggest selling acts right now as far as Ticketmaster fiascos go. So, I could totally see him showing up and playing one of Taylor Swift's crappy songs. Oh, I'm sorry. Am I allowed to say that? If you're a Taylor Swift hater, people don't like you. I do not get Taylor Swift. I don't understand.
Well, my thing, can I add something as you're responding? I don't know. Listen, I have like one or two Taylor Swift songs on my Apple Music, the pop stuff that's on the radio. I don't know if she has crappy songs. Like, I'm with you. Like, I don't get it. I have no interest in it. I don't. Dare I say, does this seem almost even like bland? Like, is Bruce getting a shine, getting a rub off, trying to get a little bit onto the Swift crowd? To try to again.
I hope not.
Keep this guy, relevant.
He doesn't.
I mean, like legacy artists are asked about current artists all the time. I mean. There was a Billy video interview where he's like, I don't know anything about it. I mean, like, that's kind of what I expect. Billy, at least Billy's, pretty bluntly honest. He's like, I don't listen to today's music. I don't really know too many artists, and, I don't have much more to add on it, So I just don't get this. It seems like everywhere Bruce is being interviewed, he mentions Taylor Swift, and,
well,
I don't get it.
If she's going to show up at one of his shows, I just hope it's not the one we're at, because that to me it's a waste of time.
Any thoughts on Fallon and this whole Thunder Road deal?
Well, I'll go backwards. So the Carlton dance definitely 100% stole that from the Dancing in the Dark video. If you look at it side by side, it's 100% exactly the same thing. And I've actually known about that forever. The lyric is Mary's Dress Waves. That's what he says in the song on the album Born to Run. It's clear, or it's pretty clear. And I've also known that he always sings Sways live. Why? Well, I guess we just found out. But yes, the lyric is on the album. It is Waves, always has been. But it's a fun. I like it when he clears up these like urban legends, and now it's even more of an urban legend because he didn't come up with a definitive answer, or the definitive answer was I've been singing the wrong lyrics for 40-something years, which is true. It was a funny bit. I liked it. It's always interesting to me as Springsteen grows older. He's becoming more and more open about things that we've always wanted to hear his thoughts about, and some of which I think was covered with Howard, but that's one of them. We like seeing him sort of goof on himself a little bit, that he's not taking himself so seriously. So I enjoyed the Fallon appearance for what it was. It's very difficult to watch that show now, just because I just don't think Jimmy Fallon is good at it, or at least. There's always something missing. There's always something missing from those kinds of promotional interviews on the Tonight Show. I don't know why. I say Jimmy Kimmel would do better with that kind of guest than Jimmy Fallon.
Screw you! I don't want to curse you out right now.
Why?
I'll dump this. Jimmy Kimmel is just please.
Right, but Jimmy Fallon, all he does is literally just repeat the name of the album over and over and over again. It's amazing. It's incredible. You're amazing. I love you.
All right, so he's a fanboy.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy Kimmel's going to take it into politics and stuff that just does not interest me. And to be honest with you, really does not interest the majority of the country. First of all, the overarching thing is late night TV is dead. It was an institution. We were kids. It's just it doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the same. It's nowhere near what it was in the 70s and the 80s, and even with Leno, it's nowhere near it. These guys are sort of. I'm not going to say nameless, faceless, but it's very. They're all homogenous. It's just all guys that are variations of the same kind of thing, and I don't know. I've never stayed up late one time to watch in years.
Oh yeah, so, if it's all guest based.
I'll give Jimmy Fallon at least. I agree. I don't watch him either, and he could be slightly annoying, but at least he's a fan. I mean, I know he's at least he's a rock and roll fan. And,
well, that's
Bruce
true.
Fan.
That's true.
So,
I don't know.
With like Mary Dress Sways or Mary Dress Waves. Like I was thinking, I really love that song by U2, Someday, Buddy, Someday.
And I still haven't found the whore I'm looking for.
Yeah, right. Well, let's finish it up. We've said a lot, but Groo, Howard Stern says Pete Davidson is on a terrific roll with A-list women amid the comedian's latest rumored romance with Emily Ratajkowski. She's the girl from the Blurred Lines, Robin Thicke video.
Yeah.
She was like the big it girl like 6-7 years ago. Howard says, quote, I think it's effing great. I called it. The radio personality 68 said 2 Tuesdays ago on a Sirius XM show before offering a warning to Davidson. Emily is a great beauty, but at some point, if he F's so many women, he's going to start to get the reputation that he's like a bee. He pollinates and then goes. The shock jock continued. You don't want to become the guy who just F's celebrity girls, so he's got to be careful. Stern actually suggested that the Saturday Night Alive alum who turned 29 on Wednesday would be a good match. He said, I was thinking Pete Davidson could go out with Emily Ratajkowski. That would be a good matchup. He said at the time following Davidson's split from Kim Kardashian and Ratajkowski's divorce filing from her husband, Sebastian Bear McClard. Are you listening to something in the background?
Yeah, for some reason, on a Saturday afternoon, they're like taking apart the roof of my building. They're literally climbing outside.
Oh, all right, no worries.
I am worried. I'm like, what the fuck are these people doing?
The dude is living the dream, He can get a little bit jealous. He's a funny dude. He's famous. He's rich. And he's got big dick energy. Now, this is Howard. Big dick energy. Everyone knows he has a big cock. Co-host Robin Quivers chimed in. I just laughed because Pete, after Kim Kardashian said he wasn't going to date any more famous women, nobody's asking Pete to stop dating famous women. He keeps volunteering to not do it. Prior to his relationship with the Skims mogul, Pete Davidson has romanced a slew of A-list women, including Ariana Grande and Kate Beckinsale. Groo, Howard dishing on Pete Davidson because everyone knows he's got a big cock.
Is that why he was like on suicide watch for a while? Because he's banging too many Kim Kardashians and his dick is so big and he's making millions in movies and TV and he's just so. Remember, he like disappeared.
I think that was Ariana. I think that was Ariana Grande, but I think that was.
Ariana Grande. Yeah, I could see how that could hurt. And then you gotta go to Kim, she's, imagine that safety net of Kim Kardashian, and then Kanye West gets your sloppy seconds. I don't understand Pete Davidson. I don't find him terribly funny, but I'm guessing he's packing something down there because I don't see what the is it because he's like the poster boy for the PTSD 9/11 thing? Like I remember he made that.
I'm not gonna goof on that.
No, I'm not goofing on it, but I'm saying he kind of set himself up because when that happened, he was on the rise stand up wise, and he didn't shy away from it, so he kind of became everybody's like pet in a way, like poor little Pete.
I think he's fashioned his comedy career as sort of that, slacker kind of thing that everybody loves. I'm actually more like this is what Howard Stern's talking about. Like, I mean, to me, and he's got a reference to guys, size of his, which,
we used to find that funny.
I don't know.
I mean, obvious. I mean, from Howard's point of view, that's got to be the only. What else is there?
Yeah, I guess the guy's got a big Johnson. So
he's not a terribly handsome dude, right?
Yeah.
He's covered. He's covered in tats from like eyebrow to pinky toe.
I don't think he has face tattoos.
He's got them like coming out of his hands, like Jesus Christ! It hurts when I like get a little paper cut. And these people are, oh my God, what the fuck? Anyway.
Well, anyway.
Good for him.
Good
for him.
Good for him. Good for you.
Good for you.
Groo, today's Nothing Worthwhile podcast, Stern, Springsteen, Sirius Sit Down, is brought to you by New You Life Center. Maintain the skin you love. Say bye-bye to skin issues with the help of their state-of-the-art laser treatments. I did one. It did help. New You has it all. It has Physique, Skin Wave, Virtual RF, Microneedling, Tetra, or IPL, Intense Pulse Light. Bye-bye laugh lines and wrinkles. You'll love it all. That's New You Life Center. Check them out at www.newyoulifecenters.com or give them a call at 602-274-0098 or 68. I think it's 68. Check out their crazy TikTok videos at www.tiktok.com/@newyoulifecenter. Life-changing solutions tailored to your goals. That's New You Life Center. All right, Andrew. Let's set the stage for the big interview. We know what happened, really. Howard has not been shy over the past few years. He is certainly named the boss, Bruce Springsteen, as his number one. Yet, Bruce seemed to be that one major A-list holdout that did not give in to the king of all interviewers. So how did it finally take place? Bruce, we know, after refusing all those years, did sit down with Howard Stern. Bruce Springsteen later admitted that he was late to the Stern party after the interview, but that he would 100% return. Anyone who knows anything about the Howard and Bruce relationship knows that this is a huge turnaround. Howard has made it known that Bruce has had no intention of ever coming on the show. Despite sitting down with countless A-list celebrities, musicians, and politicians, Howard and his team simply could not land Bruce as a guest. On October 17th, 2022, Howard formally announced that Bruce Springsteen was going to be interviewed on the show. Closer to the date, Howard even announced that he would physically join Bruce in his New York studios, a place, much to the chagrin of his fans, he hasn't stepped foot in since the start of the pandemic. You know, the thing about it,
I see the red in your eyes. The devil has got
it's
you.
like, SiriusXM spent probably millions of dollars to make
studio.
A whole section of its building. They call it, I forget what they call it, but it's like a whole area for Howard's studio and offices and
bathroom.
To think that they put millions of dollars into that. Oh, did you hear about the whole bathroom thing?
No.
I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it's nothing to do with Bruce. Do you think SiriusXM has buyer's remorse? I'm not even saying on Howard, but like this whole studio, massive setup they gave him that's virtually being unused in a sense.
Well, it really depends. It depends on, and I know they got people who crack the numbers. It depends on the numbers that Howard is drawing. If Howard is still drawing money, as Kevin Nash would say, then I don't think they have buyer's remorse. If he's meeting or exceeding the financial expectations.
About subscribers?
Yeah, I think it all comes down to that.
Do you think SiriusXM has a way to measure viewership?
They have to,
even on a streaming level.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They have to. Yeah, you all that stuff is on YouTube. So they count the likes, they count the subscribes. They like every single one of those things is like a Nielsen point. All the views, all the likes, and I there's definitely a way that they can tell who's listening to what channel on the radio and who's listening and when. They have to be people crunching those numbers. Absolutely. So if the returns are what they should be, then I don't think anybody's being like, why'd we spend all this money? Otherwise, they would tell him to get his fat ass back into the studio.
2018 Groo, Howard Stern admitted to finally meeting Bruce Springsteen in person. I remember that show in which it was some Hampton party. He met Bruce and Billy was there, and I think it was maybe at Bon Jovi's house or something like that.
Oh my God!
They did connect
just
on
that
personal
phrase,
level.
Just that phrase that you just said.
Yeah.
Imagine you saying that 25 years ago. Howard Stern met Bruce Springsteen and Billy Joel at John Bon Jovi's house, and Meryl Streep was there, and
exactly Paul Rudd, and while they connected on a personal level, Howard and his producer Gary Dell'Abate, who himself is a massive Boss fan, were unable to woo him to come on the show. On the air, Howard claimed that Bruce was still angry at him. Quote, I suspect some of the things I said about him on the air in my earlier years turned him off to me in terms of doing the show. Howard has said a lot of controversial things about celebrities over the years, and he's been able to make up with most of them.
Yeah.
This has been attributed to his personal growth and change in tone on the Stern Show over the past 2 decades.
I disagree with that.
Go ahead.
Because he's been doing this sort of makeup tour for 30 years at this point. Okay, it started with like Sammy Hagar for Mystery Guest, and it continued with like Chevy Chase, and it continued with, I remember Chevy Chase came on for the first time like at the beginning of series.
While you're talking, I'm going to turn the heat on. I'll be back in 15 seconds.
The heat? You live in Phoenix, Arizona,
it's a little
and you
cold
got to
here.
turn the heat on. Wow. Well, anyway, so now I'm talking to Moody's background here, which I'm not really sure what it is. It looks like something out of the Terminator. But anyway, so what I was saying was that what were we talking about?
Well, you're talking about this whole change in tone.
Yeah, this has been going on for a while.
I remember, like, let's say the stuff with like Kathy Lee and like with Rosie, I remember being like, this is strange, but I was open to it because it wasn't something that occurred all the time, and it didn't. I thought, hey, listen, maybe it was organic. They met up. Maybe it could happen, and I wasn't against it.
Well, who's left at this point?
There's no one. Pretty much no one. I mean, Kathy Lee made up with, and blah, 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 blah.
Jay Leno went sort of the other direction.
This is not a Jay.
Right.
Who cares? Do you think that that's really... Do you think that that was a legitimate evolution, a business move, or a little bit of both?
It's probably both. I could see him sort of being tired of being shunned everywhere he went. He used to talk about that a lot. How like he would, anytime he would walk into a room, he'd have to wonder who he offended in there. Did he say something about, because he used to really goof on everybody. Even if he didn't know them, if they were doing the news and Jennifer Aniston was being interviewed. And they play a clip, you'd hear like, bah, 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 or, like he'd just be like, all right, shut up. Like he wouldn't want to hear about that. And I can understand that kind of thing weighing on him as he gets older. So I see that. I don't mind the reconciliations because it does make for interesting radio in most cases. With that being said, I think that I wouldn't want to see him make up with all these people at the expense of not goofing on things still. Like he doesn't like that's the show to me. Like he's sort of representing us, saying all the things, like pointing out hypocrisies and pointing out silliness. And I miss that.
Don't you think that that's long gone? I mean, that's long gone. I mean,
I miss it.
That guy, I've always said to you, that guy that, I've always told Andy, Howard, and maybe we talked about it on the air, and I'll make it real quick, Howard got divorced. That was kind of a big thing in his world because he always preached, you could be tempted, but stay with your wife.
Yep.
You go to work every day. You work hard.
I remember the quote from Private Parts. Enjoy even if you're not enjoying.
Okay.
I remember that quote from Private Parts.
And then Howard moved into the city, and he would always call his place his apartment. And I remember as a young guy being like, "Whoa, I live in an apartment too."
Yeah,
Like,
we could be best friends.
I kind of had that connection, not knowing that his apartment was 2 floors of the most expensive building in New York City that he hauled out for himself. So, I think that this guy, this man of the people, this guy that points out hypocrisies and this kind of thing, is long gone, and I think Howard won't even fake it anymore. I mean, he's going on vacation with the Jennifer Anistons to Mexico and hobnobbing. There was that article. He finally left his house, and what did he do? Went to dinner in the city with John Hamm and Paul Rudd, and again, it's fine. It's his life, but I find that a bit.
I agree.
And a bit disappointing.
But the interesting thing is that Bruce does the same thing.
Understood, but
the difference is that Bruce admits it. Bruce admits it. He like in the Broadway show that he did. He admits the whole thing is a fraud. He's like, that's my job. Well, no, but that's
he said he's never worked an honest day in his life.
No, that's not what I mean, though. I mean, like the person. He made it clear that the person on stage and the connection that he has with his audience is not the person off stage. He's made that abundantly clear. Like, it's all a magic trick, he says. This is
then why are you bumming me out right now?
I'm not bumming you out. I'm saying Bruce does what Howard doesn't do. Bruce admits it. Bruce says, this is what I do. This is how it's done. This is what it is. I am not the person from the hungry Eye of the Tiger, Born to Run guy anymore. This is who I am now. Howard just doesn't say that. Howard pretends to be something that he's not. That's the difference to me.
I'm saying Howard doesn't even pretend anymore. I'm saying Howard is comfortable where he's at. He doesn't care. And the problem that I have with the show now is it's so inauthentic. They don't take live calls. Everything's gimmick. But listen, I've gone over that many times.
Yeah.
I still believe in my heart of hearts there's still more of a connection for me with Bruce, and maybe that's what he said, but I still think there's a shred of...
Well, that's the thing. I don't mind if you're honest with your audience, do whatever the hell you want. That's why Springsteen can get away with doing a soul covers album. That his fans will be okay with that. Why? Because he's never been less than honest with his audience. Howard has not. That's the difference. Howard is controlled by the Howard Stern show is controlled by Marcy Turk. All right, he has never come on the show and actually said that. If he said that, my entire opinion would change of him completely. Finally, now we can move forward in our relationship. That you've been honest with me and says that this is not the Howard Stern show anymore. It's the Howard Stern show presented by Marcy Turk. That's what I want to hear from his mouth, and then we could move on. But until then, it's going to be more. It's going to be like this.
Well, I'm not moving on.
An abusive relationship.
Speaking of the Broadway show, Stern shared his love of Bruce's 2018 Broadway show numerous times on the air. After attending the show, Howard claimed it was one of the, quote, most moving nights of his life. Well, this has to do with the interview. Bruce basically said the reason why he went to the Stern show comes down to Howard's 2019 interview with Rolling Stone. Bruce told Howard that he was moved by his 2019 interview. This was during the promotion tour of Howard Stern Comes Again, the book of the former shock jock's favorite interviews. The bestseller also detailed the reasons for the often controversial radio host's creative and personal evolution. This is what Bruce related to as he, too, went through a metamorphosis. It was, quoting Bruce, it was a really telling and vulnerable interview. Bruce said to Howard on the Stern Show, it was the vulnerability that seemed to be the main reason why Bruce finally decided to come on the show and let bygones be bygones. Howard said to him, thank you for forgiving me for any past sins. No, Bruce interrupted. No, it's important to say. Oh, Bruce was telling Howard, don't, Bruce was saying no, and Howard said no, it's important to say. Yeah. Any thoughts on? Because my thing is,
go ahead. Go ahead. Let it out.
Well, it really has nothing to do with Bruce. It's just Howard Stern Comes Again was the biggest promotional flim-flam sell job to his fans. It was a book. 2 years of working hard to what? Narrate already documented interviews. He put in 17 pages of new material, nothing on Artie, nothing of what the hardcore fans wanted. I hate that book. I think it was the biggest. I bought it like everybody else, and I think I opened it one time, and I haven't looked at it since. It's in a pile somewhere in my house.
Yeah,
and again, I did this whole evolution thing. I think it's so overplayed on everybody's level, from Howard and Bruce to everybody. I just think it's very much overplayed. I think, as I intimated to Andy, I'm not going to say that people don't evolve, but my cynical self thinks it's more of a business move than a move of some kind of personal enlightenment. And that's what I'll say about that.
Well, it's an easy answer to a loaded question. It's easy to say, why don't you do this anymore? Why don't you do that anymore? Well, I've evolved a little bit. I've grown up a little bit. That's the stock answer, because you know as well as I do that you and I, in many ways, we look at things through the same lens that we did 25 years ago when we used to have these debates face to face in our old Turtle Run apartment. We're the same, we act differently, we conduct ourselves differently, but when it's you and me sitting down talking on one of these things, or whether we're sitting at an IHOP at 2 a.m. after a WrestleMania or whatever, we're not going to betray who we are and who we've been for any kind of, you know what? Actually, I just hit on something. We do betray that when we go to work. We are presenting a very filtered version of who we are. I think that's what everybody does, really. We don't sit in the classroom and pop open a beer at work. We don't do things at work at work, or say things at work that we would outside of work. I think that, and maybe that's what they go through too. Maybe I don't know. It's just
at this stage of my life, I don't know if I pop open a beer. But what I will say is this: listen, we have evolved. We've
evolved. We're sitting here doing a podcast about Bruce Springsteen and Howard Stern, and we've already talked about WWE. How have we evolved?
Understood, but our lives have gone beyond that. We have differences. We have differences of opinions. However, what I've said is, to what Andy has said to a certain extent, at our core, yes, we've remained for the most part the same. And so, I do agree. So I will acknowledge people do grow and people do change and have different thoughts and positions on X, Y, and Z. But yeah, essentially the guy from 1990 that Groo talked to is essentially at the core, yeah, I'm still the same guy.
Yeah, and we never tried to, we presented a filtered version of that, but, we're here, anybody can just click a button and listen to what we're saying here, but, going to Howard for a second, Howard would seem like the type of guy with the kind of money that he has and the kind of power he had at the time, back in, 2009, 2010. All of a sudden, this Marcy Turk comes in and says, okay, I'm going to do things this way now. And this is what the show is going to be. You would think Howard Stern would be like, fuck you. Who are you? But he did the opposite. He welcomed it because he wanted the burden off of his shoulders. He didn't want to be the daddy anymore. He didn't want any of that. And you know what? sorry, man, that's what you built up over time. You know, you build up this whole thing. Sometimes you got to do a little bit of the heavy lifting, and he didn't want any of that. And that's why this whole thing, this whole era, has been one cop out after another. You know, I mean, does that well? Doesn't that align with your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I've made myself abundantly clear. No need for me to restate my position on the Howard Stern show. But I'm trying to connect it to this interview. I don't want, so when Bruce talks about evolution, I'll go back to my original statement, which is I believe it's overdone. I believe it's that on both guys' parts as well. But Howard, to me, is a lot more egregious because his sell job is evolve everything. And every time he gets called out on bad behavior in the past, he goes on the radio and what does he say all the time? I was crazy back then. I was out of my mind. Sorry, that ain't gonna cut it, and but maybe it does for Howard because he somehow skates by time after time, and people who've done, in my opinion, maybe a lot less egregious stuff are X'd out. So
and comparing that to Bruce, I mean, Bruce backs any criticism you'd levy against Bruce, he backs it up with his work. He still brings it night after night. He put out one of the strongest albums he's had in a long time in Letter to You, in my opinion. He has consistent output, different things. Even if you don't like Only the Strong Survive, it's something different. It's something new for him anyway. He keeps going and going. He loves working. He loves doing his work. Billy Joel, Howard Stern, all they do is bitch about work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, we've already talked about.
Well, like you said, you're trying to connect it to. I'm saying like Billy Joel and Howard Stern have this kinship, and their careers kind of like parallel a little bit. With the drop off. Maybe Billy a little earlier than Howard, but in any case, comparing that to Springsteen is still going out and playing marathon shows at high octane levels, and he keeps saying, I'm not going to stop until I drop. And that's the difference. The difference is in the attitude towards the product. At least that's what it seems like to me. What do you think?
That's one to grow on.
Yeah, the more you know.
I agree with pretty much everything that you said. All right, let's touch upon a couple of big points on this interview. Springsteen talked about with Howard the sale of his catalog to Sony Music for around $500 million for what may be the biggest single artist music catalog sale for date. When Stern asked Springsteen for his reasoning in the deal, he said at 73 years old, it was a timing thing, and he trusted that Sony would do a good job taking care of his songs. Quoting Bruce, I bumped into the luckiest job in the world because they gave me a fortune for something I would have done for free. Andrew Gruthius, Bruce Springsteen, $500 million. His songs go to Sony Music.
When I first heard it, I was like, why? I mean, you've already got at least that in your basement tucked away or in a Swiss bank account. Like, do you really need that? Why would you? You've made it a point over your whole career to keep your music from being used unless you're specifically approving it. And Springsteen was notorious for being very critical of allowing his music to be used for certain things. And so to give that up after standing by that for so long seemed a bit weird. But you know what? Like you said, like we've established, if you could call him a sellout if he wasn't continuously making good to great music. If he wasn't continuously giving you the output, even arguably at a greater pace than he did before. He's always around. He's not, there was a period of time where Springsteen disappeared for like 4 years between like Tunnel of Love and the Human Touch era. So you can't get him off the TV. He did 4 nights on Tonight Show in the last week and a half. So he's still working his ass off. So you know what? You can do whatever the fuck you want. That's how I changed my view of it. It belongs to him. Obviously, he's trying to set up his great-great-great-grandchildren for the rest of their lives. So be it. Stallone was talking about the same thing. And actually, this is relevant because Stallone is having a problem on the other side. He can't get the rights to his baby. And so he can't leave that to his children because the rights of Rocky don't belong to him. So imagine how frustrating that would be.
Oh, please. He sold, we talked about it a year ago. He sold his mansion for however many million. I'm not going to cry for Sylvester Stallone.
No, I know that.
But plenty of money.
Right.
It's not a sellout. It's a cash out. But there's no perfect deal. So, again, once you sell your catalog, you lose. Again, you may have negotiated in the deal, perhaps, some level of voice and how your music can be used, but again, your catalog goes to somebody else and they can use it as they see fit. But $500 million, that's a lot of dinero. And yes, Bruce's grandchildren,
and they're all doing it, aren't they? Like I think Bob Dylan did it. I think Bob Dylan.
The only one I don't know is Billy. Billy is, but I'm pretty sure Billy will give in. Which is
ironic because Billy hates his music.
But Billy did specifically talk about on Howard.
Yeah, I remember.
I would lose control of, how my songs are used, and that's something that's a little scary to me. So anyway, Groo, you did talk about Bruce saying, "Look, I'm going to play till I drop," and Bruce did say this on the Stern Show. Look at Johnny Cash, Pete Seeger. I played with Pete Seeger in Washington at Obama's inauguration. Pete was 91 or 92. He came out and sang "This Land Is Your Land." So I look at those guys. I don't know if I'll be able to do 3-hour shows at this stage of my life, but I have so many different kinds of music that I can play and do. The Broadway show I could do for the rest of my life in one form or another if I wanted to. Not shocking comments, but it looks like Bruce is going to play, till he drops.
That's what that was great to hear as a fan, knowing that he has no intention of slowing down in some form. Obviously, we all figured. It's funny because, and I know I get off on tangents, and I'm sorry, but I was watching.
I gotta eat lunch.
I was watching. I surf YouTube, and I was watching. In between looking for the OnlyFans things, I was watching thanks for the laugh on that. I was watching a performance from like 1992 or 1993. I'm fascinated with that era of Springsteen, his first foray without the E Street Band, and they're great performances. But I remember I'm watching it. I remember the thinking back then, and part of that was Howard Stern. Springsteen was done. Like, he was on the downward slope of his career. He was over the hill. He was considered to be, I remember, he was considered to be over the hill. He hadn't been on the road in like 4 or 5 years.
Aren't you overstating it?
No, I am really not, because I remember.
Done?
No, I remember. I remember it very specifically. I remember a quote from Howard Stern. He was talking about something like somebody who was way past their prime, and he's like, that guy's as over as Springsteen, like around that time. And I remember being like, ooh, look at you. And to see those performances now and realize that 25 years later, the guy would still be, and maybe be even more relevant than he was at that time in his career, when people were thinking, all right, this was the biggest star in the world 7 or 8 years earlier. Now, all right, so he's done. He'll go in the, he's fired his band, so now he's going off into the sunset. Meanwhile, that was really it ended up being just sort of like a regeneration in a way. So to have him now here in 2022 on the verge of a major world tour with the band, and him saying that no matter what, he's always going to be playing music, whether it's a 3-hour show or the Broadway show. As a fan, that's really cool. I think that's great. And for me, who was not able to see the Broadway show, if that means that at some point he's going to do it again, I hold out hope that I will be able to see the Broadway show at one point, because I heard it was fantastic, and I'd love to see it. I just couldn't afford it.
Yeah, you better get a second or third job.
Exactly.
I better get a second or third job.
But either way, I think you'll agree. It's just great to see someone who we like so much still have a passion for creating that art, instead of just kind of like saying, all right, I'll do another one, or I'll do this, or all right, I'll play this song again. I mean, that's not what he does, and that's I guess that's his longevity, I would say, or at least a big chunk of it. Thoughts?
Wow. Thoughts.
Am I keeping you awake?
No. I think when you reflect back, I think you're overplaying a little bit that he was done, and again, I want to stick to but I remember, the mainstream press wasn't too kind to the whole, when Bruce left E Street and did, Human Touch, Lucky Town. But done, I wouldn't go that far. Relevance now, that's a matter of opinion. He's definitely relevant. Do I think Bruce, mainstream and like kids are good? No. I mean, Jimmy Fallon having him on, that's, Jimmy Fallon's a fanboy, and I think he'll get every opportunity to have, the Bruce and the Billies on to promote whatever they're doing. To the point about him playing and till he drops, I think that's absolutely great.
But like, talking about relevance, when he's a part of something, he becomes the center of it in a way. Like if he's going to be on an award show, he either opens it or closes it. He seems to be, like I said, he was on the Tonight Show 4 times, and like nobody else gets it. Who gets 2.5 hours alone in the studio with Howard Stern? Like, this fucking guy is like godlike in so many different ways, that to say like all right, maybe he's not relevant yet, he's everywhere. And
again, I'm going to say, I've said this in earlier podcasts, this interview came for me 20 years too late, and Howard Stern in 2022, it's not a small feat, but again, I mean, it's not. You probably would have gotten more mainstream press if he went on The View and did the whole show. I mean, that's just how I feel.
Well, of course.
I'm not saying it's nothing, but it's not the earth-shattering.
I'll agree with that. I'm not commenting on the quality of the interview. I'm commenting on just the fact that it took place and the way it took place and the publicity it's getting, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the quality of it. The quality of it.
What publicity did it get?
It's being streamed on arguably the biggest streaming platform in at least the country right now. This is just an interview. It's 2 guys talking to each other, and they're making a 2.5-hour special on it.
Again, I think that's Howard's positioning.
Fine, it's Howard's positioning, but HBO Max is not going to put themselves behind something that they don't that they don't think is going to garner some kind of, garner at least one subscription. You know, they don't waste their time on, TV shows get canceled left and right. They don't waste their time on stuff that they don't think is worth their time. So, it's a big deal.
I say part man, part monkey.
Now, if they were airing it on, like the Howard TV thing or whatever that was, or like, at 2 a.m. on the E channel, there's going to be highlights of the Stern Springsteen interview. That's one thing, but to turn this thing into what they are, it's a comment on the relevancy. It's not a comment on our view of the interview. I would say
I'm not talking about the interview.
Right.
Now I'd like to talk about the interview.
Okay, so I was going to ask you. All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you what. You clearly were disappointed from the Howard side of things, as I was. Why? Because...
Well, I didn't even finish asking questions about the interview.
Okay. Okay, no, I was just going to ask you, what would you have liked to have seen that you didn't see?
Well, it would be, what would I like to have heard?
Yeah, okay.
This is such a this podcast.
What?
It was so disjointed. We have other stuff to cover about the interview, but I mean, if you're asking me, I mean, to me, the most interesting stuff would have been, the breakup with E Street Band, perhaps the solo stuff, and how he got back together with it. The personal stuff, I don't know if I would have turned away to hear about the stuff with the ex-wife, but it's not something I would have really liked to have heard, really about the situation with the E Street Band. I know he's covered it in his book, but I would have liked to have heard how that sort of relationship unraveled, or whether it was a business, and then how did he find his way back to the E Street Band?
Couldn't agree more. That's the one. If I had to pick one thing that I would want to hear him elaborate on, it would be exactly that whole era.
And Howard should have known that would be interesting to most.
You couldn't
Bruce
be more
fans.
right. I couldn't agree more.
And that's why I say, maybe there were things put into place where, I'm not saying for Bruce, but we know now that Stern acquiesced, I'm sure, to many of his guests, their demands when it comes to the interviews. Whereas I don't believe Howard 20 years ago would have. It would have been, you come on the show and you're asked what you're asked.
What was
Howard? Go ahead.
Well, because something similar happened with Michael Jackson, did it not?
What do you mean?
Remember, in I think it was Miss America, there's a chapter where he talks about where he had a meeting with Michael Jackson about coming on the show, right?
Right, but that was generated through Michael Jackson, because they were getting such bad press. They wanted Howard to take a specific angle on it and then have Michael on, and Howard wasn't willing to do so. Like, they wanted Howard to come on and take a real specific angle to the controversy that was supposedly going to alleviate some of this bad press that Michael Jackson was having, and Howard was intrigued at the idea of having Michael on because he took the meeting. But he said it was so weird and so... if I'm remembering what I read in Miss America all those years later.
Would Howard today have submitted to those requests?
I don't think with a Michael Jackson, no, because I think the allegations of child, inappropriateness, sexual, whatever it was, it's so jarring that I think you've got to be a real fool, even for a major star like Michael Jackson, whose career was starting to wane at that point anyway. I think there's some things you just got to stay away from.
I'll agree with that.
Maybe somebody else, perhaps. I don't know if Howard would overtly take a position, but I'm sure Howard, if he had a major star on, could be cajoled to ask this specific question that's going to elicit this response to where they want the PR to go for an interview. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes 100% sense. But
it's like me saying, Groo, I need you to ask this because I want to put this out there to the world. I think Howard definitely would do that. I don't know if Howard would. I don't know. You got to have some integrity, right? You can't. agree to a certain position unless that's really your heartfelt position, I think.
Yeah, but like, you would think that Bruce Springsteen would be more willing to talk about his band and that dynamic than his divorce.
Perhaps
that surprised me. That surprised me as a fan.
Well, hold on. In fairness to Bruce, perhaps he is. I'm only surmising.
Good point.
They didn't really touch it. That could have been that again, could have been something prearranged, or Howard just didn't find it interesting, or Howard didn't have enough time, or whatever it was. I'm just saying, for me, that I would have liked to have heard that. Because Howard, of course, ever the fan of therapy, did ask Bruce about therapy. It was specifically referenced about the length of his shows, and Bruce being very obsessive about, the shows. And Bruce said if something went wrong during a 3-hour show, he would obsess over it on the bus, even writing out notes on how to improve the next show. Then he started talking about, which, again, this is where I start to drop off. I was using this as a purification ritual. I mean, come on. What is this? In 1986, blind faith in your leader will get you killed.
Yeah,
I'm talking about war!
Yeah. Well, he's always been kind of flighty like that.
Yeah, clearing out your soul and mind. I had a lot of self-created rituals. They were rituals of purification. I took it too far, and he admitted to being a perfectionist. I don't really have a lot to add, but when Howard starts going that route, the finger is on the button to change the channel, even with a Bruce Springsteen, because it was interesting to me back in 2001, 2002, when he first started talking about therapy. That was interesting. You didn't really have a lot of celebrities talk about it back then. I found it interesting. I found it perhaps even helpful. In 2022, it's always an angle, and it's always in Howard. There's a very pro-therapy agenda, perhaps even maybe something a bit, dare I say, sinister. I don't know. I just, if it comes up, I'm not against it, but God, it's this every single goddamn celebrity, from Hulk Hogan to whoever. Howard's going to talk about therapy, and I don't know. It's time for me to change the channel or tune out when Howard goes that route. I'll throw it to you.
All right. Well, I'll add one thing. I agree with you to a certain point, and here's that point. When he's talking about that with somebody who has been through the same thing, that's kind of the Howard interview part that I like, because I like it when interviewers can connect with their guests on a personal level. However, okay, if he's going to sit there and talk about therapy with an Adam Levine, a dude who's 30 years younger than him, and try to connect on some level, I call bullshit right away.
But why? I take a slight BS to that comment. I mean, if you're trying to connect on a therapy deal, why does it matter if it's a 30-year-old or a 70-year-old?
I'll tell you, because I have an answer. Because at least the way it feels and seems from Howard's, from listening, it's not organic. It's very constructed, with a guy like Springsteen and his contemporary, like a Bruce Springsteen. I think they're only like 3 or 4 years apart in age. That's something that I'm more interested in. How guys who have been at the very, very top, alone at the top of their profession for a good amount of time, are now sitting, talking one-on-one. Here, they've grown up through the same eras. They've seen the same presidents. They've seen the same issues, social issues, whatever. They've seen everything. East Coast, one on Long Island, one in New Jersey. These guys already have a lot in common, and now they're going to talk about how they've both been down the therapy road. That I'd be interested in hearing, because there's that connection there with someone who's so much younger and just the it person of the moment. It's it's empty and it's meaningless, and it's like, oh, that's when you go like, oh, here we go. All right, he's trying to be cool with the young crowd, but here he's talking to a 73-year-old man, talking about his own personal life. That's different than talking to a 25-year-old kid about your own demons. So that's why here that works. And I know it's kind of like hypocritical to say, well, it's okay for him to talk about this with some guests and not others. Well, if it's hypocritical, it's hypocritical. That's just the way I see that particular line of discussion.
Well, you called it, but again. I go back to my main point with the Stern Show. It's inauthentic, and I think there's always an angle there. And if it came up, I sound like such a douche. Organically, I wouldn't really have a problem with it, but it's like every interview, yes, whether it's Billie Eilish to Bruce Springsteen, insert question about therapy, and usually these celebrity types, they give you a very long-winded, hoity-toity answer that I just want to throw up in my mouth and turn the channel. So that's what I'll say about that. Now, and then Bruce with the purification.
That was a bit much.
Come on.
It is
a bit much.
I agree.
And this is why I've always said to you, that's why I was a little bit late to the party with Bruce. Because I was a kid, and I got that greatest hits, the live 75. I loved it, but, I don't want to hear a soliloquy for 20 minutes before a song. That's why I gravitated to the Billies and Eltons originally, and I am a full-blown Bruce fan. And sometimes it is appropriate to do a soliloquy, but, please, don't bore us. Get to the chorus. Right, John Bon Jovi?
That's great.
He also opened up about the death of E Street Band saxophonist Clarence Clemens, who died in 2011. Wow. Already 10, 11 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Revealing he had played him a song at the hospital, quoting Bruce, "I had a feeling he could hear me because he would squeeze my hand. When I first went to see him after his stroke, there was some response to your voice and to you being in the room. It felt like," Springsteen said, I knew that he was going to die, so I just brought the guitar in and I strummed a song called Land of Hope and Dreams. It's about passing over to the other side. It's about life and death," Springsteen continued. His brother was there. I think Jake, his nephew, was there, and there were a few other people, but it was in this tiny little space. It's a hymn. It was a song we were playing at the end of the night, and it was one of the last songs that Clarence and I worked on a sax solo together on. To me, the most touching moment of the interview was Bruce talking about Clarence and playing that song in front of him on his deathbed. Even a cold-hearted bastard like myself was touched. I'm sure knowing Andy felt the same way, but I'll toss it to my friend Andrew Guthius. Bruce playing Land of Hope and Dreams for his old bandmate Clarence Clemens, who's about to go.
Yeah, I thought that was the funniest part of the interview.
Oh, stop. How dare you.
No, you're right. That was obviously the high point of definitely the high emotional point. Not easy to watch. That was, and as a fan, we knew, fans knew that Bruce had gone to see him, but I didn't even know. I didn't know that. I knew that, but I did not. What I did not know was the story that he told. I did not know that, and that was quite a story. And it was, and then we played the clip of him playing the song in our opening, and that song packs a wallop anyway. That's a great song. I mean, Land of Hope and Dreams is really a great song, an emotional song. It's
phenomenal. I agree with you. My take on it, I didn't know. I didn't really get a take about life and death. I mean, obviously, I had a different take on the song, so I was glad. I mean, I'm not glad, but I was interested to hear that. But, just hearing him talk about Clarence, you can almost get the visual. And, it does lend itself to the authenticity of Bruce and the sweetness, of his soul. That he would do that for a fellow warrior, a guy that he's had a lot of, driven a lot of roads.
Yeah, a lot of miles.
You and I talk about the same thing, but it was clearly
what
for me.
What song are you going to play for me on my deathbed?
Oh Lord! Oh, stop it! I got to think about that. Yeah, right. Call
the Brood. No, I tell you what I want. I want the Brood theme song. Edge, Christian, and Gangrel.
Call 1-800-JACKIE, Jackie the Joke Man at the Comedy Elbow, and Elmont, May 5th through the 9th. Call 199-JACKIE. Yeah, I mean, it was that definitely touched me. And really, just to wrap up my notes on the interview, he did speak about a lot of. He's a fan of a lot of artists. He talked about being a fan of Rage Against the Machine. Rage Against the Machine guitarist Tom Morello. He did again talk about Taylor Swift, and he talked about. He wrapped up with Howard talking about his own writing process. Springsteen saying it's not as simple as putting pen to paper. Quote, I don't have something to say every day, I don't go into a room at 11 o'clock and write till 3 or something like that. I just wait for the songs to come along. Any final thoughts or any points about the interview, Andrew, before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, see, that's how you do it. You don't force it. If you're lucky enough to have that kind of skill, you wait for it to come. You don't just write to write. That's why I hope Billy Joel listened to that interview, because Billy Joel, whenever Howard asks him the same question every interview. I know we're getting all over to Billy Joel here, but
you're all over the place.
But we always compare them because there's a lot to compare.
You have podcasting ADHD.
I know, but but that to me is he's not writing and he's not producing for anyone other than himself, and that's.
But he's not. He's not interested. He said he's got nothing left.
No, I'm talking about Springsteen. I'm talking about Springsteen. Okay, Billy Joel always talks about the pressure, no pun intended, of having to make a hit song and a hit record, and I hope that he continues to write, even if he doesn't put anything out, because he's so talented, and to waste that kind of talent, it seems like that's what stops him from writing. If he gets an idea or he gets a song in his head, but then he sees all the ghosts of the music business or whatever. Bruce just said, you know what? If I like this, I'm going to write it, have some fun with it. If it works, I'll put it out. Big fucking deal. It's music.
I think you touched upon a little bit of what the difference is, and I don't want to overplay this too much, but I think Billy Joel, in a sense, was a numbers guy and a hits guy, and I think River of Dreams, it was a number one album, but I think Billy sensed correctly that the music business was starting to change, and we were going into downloads, and we were going, and new artists, he's now late 40s, and you're starting to approach that moment where you're just not as relevant, you're not getting airplay on pop radio like you used to, and I think Billy made a conscious. I'm not saying the things that he hasn't said are not legit, but I think Billy was stuck on that a bit more than a guy like Bruce Springsteen. That's just my take on it. And I think Bruce.
You're probably right. You're probably right. So, I would like one day to make a list of questions that we would ask some of these people. That'd be interesting to me.
Well, let me just ask you this. Let's wrap up with this point.
Okay.
Because you did ask me during the podcast. And please, I got to urinate and I got to eat. But I do want to ask you, overall, did you enjoy the Howard Stern, Bruce Springsteen interview?
I can't say that I enjoyed it yet because I have yet to experience it from start to finish.
All right, come on, though. We're doing a podcast on it.
I'm going to watch the thing on HBO because I do want to see it from start to finish. It's very difficult for me to listen to something from that long from start to finish.
But I'm sure
what I have seen, what I have seen echo everything that we've said. Bruce brought it. Howard held back. You know, maybe Howard was a little weary because this was such a momentous occasion for him. Maybe if he does come back, which it sounds to me like it's like the doors open for that. Maybe he'll get maybe Howard will be able to loosen up the way Bruce did. So it was. I would say it's everything I had hoped it would be. I didn't expect or hope it to be anything more than it was. So I wasn't like, oh my God, this is going to be the greatest interview ever. I can't wait to see it. No, I was like, this is probably going to be good, and I hope it's good, and that's all I need it to be. And everything I've seen has been good. Now, to be fair, the only stuff that they put on like YouTube and stuff is going to be good stuff. It will be very interesting for me to hear the whole thing unfiltered from start to finish. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I've enjoyed what I've seen. The performances, especially the Rising, they showed that performance, that acoustically, man, that song. Isn't it amazing how he can like take these barn burners and turn them into the softest things and make them just as compelling?
Well, you're going to get, the performances are going to be there. So, yes, I very much enjoyed the performances. And what did I think of the interview, Andy? Oh, thank you.
I asked you that before.
Well, yeah, you did. I have to apologize. He's right. And listen, again, not a fan of the current product, but the interview definitely held my interest. Did Howard hold back? Debatable. There was, I've already said the one point that I turned it, when I start going into the therapy and the purification of my soul and the Catholicism and raining down, I did turn the channel for a few minutes, but I did go back to it, and I think Howard does a good job with the standard questions and moves the interview along, and does enough butt kissing and things of that nature. But I can't be like, listen, I got to be fair. The interview held my interest, and I did enjoy it. Couple of small criticisms, but I mean, you're not going to really go wrong with a Bruce Springsteen. The first time there's such an expansive listing of questions and things on his music and personal life and things of that nature. So I did enjoy it, and we'll see where if Bruce ends up back there. And it's just so funny because Andy always he talked about the same thing with me. You run through the dial, and so Howard's coming off of this great momentous, in his mind anyway, I'll call a little this interview with Bruce, and of course the next day is Cocktober.
Yeah.
With, gay hijinks with Sal and Richard, and I'm just like, oh god. So anyway, yeah.
And then who are the guests that he had Neil Young following.
I think that was like Wednesday.
Then he had oh god, I just saw it. Who did he have? I don't know. Either way, forgettable.
In the immortal words of Steve Langford, who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck? Andrew, give us one thing you're watching this week.
One thing I am watching this week. All right, you're not gonna. Oh, actually, no. I switched. I am watching the Sylvester Stallone show, The Tulsa King. On what? All right, then I got another one.
No, you were supposed to send me the Paramount Plus credentials.
Oh, I didn't.
I want to watch that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll give it to you right after we get off here.
Look at me, angry. Look at me, I'm such a dick. Angry that this guy hasn't given me his stream. He's paying for it. And I'm like, I don't want to see it. I do. All right, so let me.
Okay, so what I am watching, I am watching The Tulsa King. New episodes every Sunday. There are 2 episodes out. Basically, it's the Sylvester Stallone version of My Blue Heaven, where Stallone is a mobster getting out of prison after like 25-something years, and he is sent by the family to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is uncharted territory for the mob, where he's basically starting his own one-man crime ring. And that's the premise of the show. It's not The Sopranos, and it doesn't even try to be. This is a Stallone vehicle through and through, and he eats up the screen. He's great. He's given a performance that you would not think that Sylvester Stallone would be giving at this stage of his career in anything other than Rocky or Rambo. It's a lot of fun. I think you'll really like it, and I can't wait till the next episode, which is tomorrow. So Tulsa King on Paramount Plus is what I'm watching this week.
Okay, man, I didn't even put any formal notes for what I'm watching this week, but I'll just freestyle it. Based off of our conversation in New York, I started watching Lilyhammer, which Andrew did tell me was the first Netflix original show.
I believe.
I always thought it was the Orange is the New Black, but I believe Orange is the New Black came after Lilyhammer, and it's our friend of the show, Steven Van Zandt. Little Steven Van Zandt, a guitarist for the E Street Band, and of Sopranos fame, and again, similar setup. You know, he plays that one-note mafioso with a heart guy really, really well. He ends up in witness protection and tells the government he wants to go to Norway because of the Olympics he watched like 15 years ago. He remembered the landscape being really nice. And again, similar, My Blue Heaven, fish out of water. Mm-hmm. You know, you got a real Goomba in the middle of this very lily-white European country, and you know, mirth and merriment ensue. And he's really good. If there's one criticism, I told Andy, the show, probably because it was the first one, has a little bit of a cheap feel to it, the sets and whatnot.
Yeah,
it doesn't look quite as lush as The Sopranos. And then real quick, I watched on HBO Max, as a matter of fact, 2022 Barbarian horror film with the guy who plays the clown in It. He's in it. And Justin Long.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Good. Good movie.
Horror movie. Yeah,
Scary?
Girl rents an Airbnb that's double booked with this guy, and mirth and merriment ensue. And then I watched real quick. Andy always likes to talk about these things very, very quickly. Last night I had the little ones over, so they went upstairs and slept with me, grandma upstairs, and I had the couch. And so on Netflix, I'm looking at the action adventure movie section, and I come across like 2020 Security, starring Antonio Banderas.
Oh God!
And great, like one of those really good, bad, straight to streaming. He plays like an ex-Marine, and he goes to like the job development office, and he like sees the counselor, and he's like, "I need a job. I don't care if it's minimum wage." And she's like, "I don't have anything." And she's like, "You're overqualified for everything." And he's like, "I need it, damn it!" Like with his kids, it's like Rambo meets Kramer versus Kramer meets Die Hard
meets The Pursuit of Happiness.
So the lady runs out and she goes, "Listen, I have a mall security job. It's like $11. It's like $11.50 an hour. You start tonight." So of course he starts at the mall, and then like an American envoy gets killed, and his daughter escapes and runs to the door of the mall, while Ben Kingsley and this group of mercenaries, they're trying to hunt her down. So and of course he's in the mall with like 3 20-year-olds, like, you know, slacker security guards, and they have to somehow defeat this team of mercenaries as they enclose on the mall. And
see, this sounds interesting.
I couldn't turn it off. I had my melatonin. I'm sitting there 11 p.m. and I'm like, I got to go to bed, but I'm like, I have to watch to the end of the movie. And,
so that's on Netflix?
It's called Security, Antonio Banderas. And apparently Antonio's got a few of these. He kind of does like these Willis jobs. I didn't realize he's got a couple of these straight to streaming, action kind of deals. So anyway,
where would I find Barbarian?
HBO Max.
HBO Max. All right, because a good horror movie is hard to come by.
I'm
these
telling
days.
you will not expect unless you've read about it.
I have read nothing except what you say, and I'll give you one more quickie that I'm watching. I'm watching on Disney Plus the Santa Clauses. Tim Allen is returning as Santa Claus. There have been 2 episodes so far, and to quote a line from you, hook, line, and sinker. Absolutely love it.
I want to watch the Christmas Story first, but I'll give that a shot as well.
And Spirited with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds.
What is that?
That is all right. I know. All right. It takes a little bit of explanation, so I'm going to give it to you real quick because I got to go to the bathroom too. It's basically a sequel to A Christmas Carol, to the story of Scrooge. So it's the premise is basically when they redeemed Ebenezer Scrooge, they did such a great job, they decided to turn it into a business. So now once a year, they redeem an unredeemable. Every Christmas Eve, the ghosts get together and redeem another unredeemable. So that's basically it. But it's a musical. It's a whole lot of fourth wall breaking. It's funny. I don't even know if I love it yet. I'm just enjoying the process of watching it. It's kind of long. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is really long for a Christmas movie. But it's an interesting take on one of my favorite stories, which is the story of Scrooge. So
there you go. It's called. That'll be the next name of our podcast, The Unredeemables.
There you go. Not bad. So,
well, Andrew, as we wrap up this amazing episode of Nothing Worthwhile, and we pretty much talked about Nothing Worthwhile.
Right.
We are returning to Van Dammit.
Yes.
Podcast about Jean-Claude Van Damme. We're going to discuss and break down 1996 Jean-Claude Maximum Risk, starring JCVD and one Natasha Henstridge of Species fame.
Yummy.
Groo, The Other Side of Safety, Maximum Risk.
I've never seen this one. Looking forward to seeing it.
I have no reference. I don't even think I've seen this one either, so I am looking forward to it.
All right. Well, now I got to start searching for it, which happens with all of these.
Yes, Groo, as you begin to take us out, please remember, who's high pitch? And a Baba Booey to you all, Andrew. Let's wrap it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today down this. What? What happened?
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Stuff like you, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will know as you record. No, thank you for taking this stroll down memory lane with us.
Remember that great show?
Yeah, I do. This monumental, Sir Hard and Thick. This stroll through the stupendous interview that was Howard Stern and Bruce Springsteen. Yep. First time, long time. Next week, it's a return. Well, this is the mothership, so what are we returning to? Well, the Van Daminator, the Van Damme shift, the Van Dammit shift, where we are going to be taking a maximum risk as we enter the realm of Phase 3 of the JCVD universe. So join us next week for Maximum Risk. And ladies and gentlemen, until then, 1, 2, 3, rev 'em.